Okay, so let me say a few things about Vayeshev that, even though Zev is not here, I'll still try to say something I haven't said in the past. I was listening to a shir yesterday by Rav Moshe Lichtenstein, and he was really tracing certain phenomenon in the Yaakov stories in general, and they become evident in Vayeshlach, Vayeshev, and Miketz. And he notices that Yaakov has several times when he very conspicuously does not respond. Right? That he's in the middle of a conversation and he just stops. Right? And that isn't necessarily a good thing, right? And that's often where his leadership starts to falter in the family, and other people either take over or other people challenge his authority. So you get one here in Vayeshev where the first set of dreams that Yosef offers, he says, what does he say? That can't be. Right? What do you think that we're going to...
what does Yaakov say?
1 second. Sorry, the second one he raises. V'yom Yisrael Yosef halo achech harim b'Shechem. Sorry, I went too far. Vayigar bo aviv vayomer lo ma chalom asher chalamta avo navo ani v'imcha v'achech l'shtachavot v'cha artza. Sorry, so here you don't get a full silence, but right, you get this. Right, he does speak about it, but then the Torah tells you, but he doesn't say everything he wants to. Right? Why? Because the brothers are Vaikanu bo aviv achiv shamar hadavar. Now, there are two ways of reading shamar hadavar. Rashi says shamar hadavar means he rebuked him, but he really did believe that something was going to happen, so he kept it to himself. And he said, I'll rebuke him, but in the back of my mind, I'm going to wait for this to happen. But it's that elsewhere in Tanakh, in Mishlei, shamar, right, the shmor hadavar means to keep something to yourself, like to hold back. Like he had something more to say, right? And he doesn't, which to be fair is sort of, Rashi says that also, right? He thought that there was truth to it, and he didn't say it, right? He rebukes him, but there's something that he's not saying. Now, what's the result of this? The result of him holding something back, whatever it is, right? Either more rebuke, or he actually believed it and talking about that and bringing up conversation, is that the brothers end up expressing their kin'ah, and it moves on from there. Now, that's one example, but it's not by any stretch of the imagination the most striking. The most striking of all the examples is in last week's parsha, where Vayishma, right, that Reuven sleeps with his father's wife, according, right, as the pasuk says it, and then it says, Vayishma Yisrael. Yisrael heard it, and now you expect say something. Your son slept with your wife. And what is it? Right? Nothing. It's like the very conspicuous, Eventually, he gets the last word in Vayechi, Pachas Kamayim Al Totar, but that means that he had something to say. He actively didn't say it. Right? And then you get the Shimon and Levi story, where he does yell at them. Right? And he says, what did you do? How did you kill Shechem? The people in Shechem, now everyone's going to hate us, and they're going to fight us, and they're going to kill us. And the pasuk says, silence, right? They shut him down. And at that moment, the Torah actually wants to give you the impression that they are correct, which seems to be what the Rambam thinks, right? Because the Rambam thinks Shimon and Levi are actually correct in what they did. It was legitimate for them to kill the people of Shechem. Again, Yaakov clearly had more to say, because later on in Vayechi he says, right, Arur Abam Kiaz, right, their anger is cursed, right? It's not, right? He's quite harsh. Vevratam ki kashata, right, Besodam al tavo nafshi, right? I shouldn't be counted among them, right? He has a lot to say, but he doesn't, right? They give him the upper hand. There's a few things that and now in next week's parsha you'll get it again, right, where you begin to see the results of this, where Yaakov doesn't want to send Binyamin, and the brothers say, well, then we're not going. Well, then we're not going. You don't. And what you see, interestingly, which you don't see by the other avot, Avram, there is no indication at any point in the story that he loses control of the family. You don't get any indication that he's anything but the leader, right? One time, he doesn't want to send away Yishmael, and Hashem tells him, you should listen to Sarah. But you don't get the feeling he's not in charge of the family. The point is, listen to Sarah. Meaning, she doesn't have the authority to do it by herself. She can tell Avram this is the right thing. Hashem can confirm that, and then Avram has to do it. He's the head of the family. Yitzchak is interesting. Yitzchak, you sort of get the feeling he never really has control of the family. Rivka is in charge in that sense, but we don't honestly hear much about Yitzchak, right? As we've noted in the past, Yitzchak, there's only one parak in Chumash, which is only about Yitzchak. But Yaakov is this interesting character where at the beginning of the story, you very much get the feeling that he is in charge of his family. Right? He is the father of a clan. He leaves Lavan, stands up to Lavan. When he's facing Esav, he sets up a military camp to save it. Right? He is in charge. He is the patriarch of the family. And then you slowly see challenges to his authority. Right? Reuven is that is the ultimate challenge to the authority. And again, whether it literally means he slept with Bilhah or it doesn't, the fact that the Torah describes his sleeping with Bilhah is meant to invoke that type of crime, which is the ultimate challenge to parental authority. Now, where do we know that from? Right? There's another story where we see it. Right, with David, exactly. Right, the way that when the advice that's given to Avshalom is if you want to show that your rebellion is serious and you're in charge, right? You sleep with your father's wife. That shows that you're in charge. So this is the
Pilagesh, not a wife.
What?
Didn't he try for a Pilagesh, not a wife? But yeah.
Again, meaning. I'm blurring the line here. Yes, Bilhah is also right. Bilhah is also not a second level wife. She's right. The Shivcha, whatever, right?
It describes Bilhah as also a Pilagesh.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. She's a Pilagesh. So right, it's the same idea. And yet you see that however you understand it, or even if you understand it like Chazal, that it meant that Reuven came and decided where his father should have his main home. It means he's challenging his authority in a frontal way, and Yaakov hears and can't or doesn't say anything. And Shimon and Levi, right, go against his wishes, and they get the last word in this conversation. And later on, again, he doesn't want to send Binyamin, and the brothers overpower him, right? And with Yosef, whatever Shomer Davar means, but the brothers take action against Yaakov's wishes and lie to him, and you have this dynamic where you actually see Yaakov's control over the family falling away, right? Yes, at the end he may get the last word, right? Right? Like he's dying and he gives the final bracha and the ethical will, but the reality is that he is not in charge of the family, right? And you see that actually happen in Breshit. Now, why is that? Right? Why is it that we get this sort of indication from Yaakov? Now, it could just be that it happened to Yaakov. So that's why you hear about it. It's also, and the way Rav Moshe puts it, and I think he's right. Part of it is that Avram and Yitzchak, you very much get the feeling that their only job is to build a nation. And the only thing that matters are the children in their family who are part of the nation. And it is totally legitimate for some of their children to not be part of the nation. That's just fine. I mean, Avram may not be thrilled with it, but Avram, only one of his 8 kids ends up being part of the chosen nation, right? He sends away 7. And Yitzchak loses Esav. So the internal family dynamic is less critical to their stories. Right? Even, yes, you have the trick story with Yitzchak, except it's solely about who's going to get Birkat Avraham. That entire story is not really about Yitzchak losing his authority within the family. It's about who's going to get Birkat Avraham, and Rivka saying, at this moment I need to act because I need to make sure that the bracha goes to the right person. But their entire story is about who's going to continue their legacy. Yaakov is the first person who everybody in his family is going to be part of the nation, and therefore the story of his family per se is important. And therefore seeing the dynamics within the family is critical because it matters, right? Every single one of them is going to be a shevet, and therefore the family dynamic can't be one that just collapses. Right? It's not okay for him to reject 7 out of 8 of his children, because every member of his family has to be part of the nation. And therefore, Moshe argues that, on the one hand, there's two different things two points he makes. One is that maybe this is actually a strategy by Yaakov, that sometimes he's silent until the end because he doesn't want to reject anybody. Right? That's half the story, is that he doesn't want to write out Reuven or Shimon and Levi despite everything they did. And therefore, he learns how to keep his silence until a point at which it's no longer dangerous. Right? When everyone's together and your family is set and you're giving your ethical will, and then you give some last minute musar, so you'll give your musar, but you won't kick them out of the family. So part of it is that he learns to be silent as a strategy to keep people in the family. He may express his, that he's upset to Shimon and Levi, but he won't keep pushing it. He may express somewhat to Yosef that he's upset, but there's something he's keeping to himself. Right? He learns how to, and therefore that's part of it. And he said the other part is that of all the avot, the feeling that you get is that because Yaakov is the father of the Jewish family, the Torah wants you to be able to relate to Yaakov and say, well, he went through it, right? And it's not easy, and to know that even people like Yaakov have challenges. And even someone as great as Yaakov, his family is really complicated, and he may be the patriarch, he may be Yaakov Avinu, but his kids didn't know he was Yaakov Avinu, right? He was just their father, right? This is a family like anybody else, and therefore, seeing his family enables us to relate to Yaakov in a way that is maybe a little bit harder with Avraham and Yitzchak, where we don't see the ins and outs of their family dynamic. So those are the 2 points he made, which I think are two, good points to make maybe of this story in general. And it definitely is one of sort of the things you have to notice when you're reading, Vayeshlach, Vayeshev, Miketz, Vayigash, Vayechi. This is a reality that plays itself out over many, many parashiyot, and I think both of those are at least worth keeping in mind as we go through.